my relationship with my father will be desolate, will not exist anymore.
I've always wanted you guys to have a great relationship with your dad.
Yeah.
A great one. So, place your dad.
Right.
No one.
I worry that my dad and the chance of having a really close relationship with.
It's the kind of moment no one ever expects to face. One day, you're living your life, running errands, maybe driving home from work or school, and the next, your name is written in bold letters on a legal document, accused of causing a crash that changed someone else's life. For Ysabel Brown, the daughter of Christine Woolley from Sister Wives, this is no longer a hypothetical. It's her reality. The young woman fans watched grow up on television, smiling shyly in family scenes, facing personal challenges with quiet strength, is now standing in the harsh, fluorescent light of a courtroom, fighting to defend herself. For viewers who followed the Brown family for years, seeing Ysabel's name in the middle of a lawsuit is a jolt. We've seen her as Christine's caring daughter, as someone who's dealt with back surgery, family drama, and the public eye, but this is a different kind of battle. According to the plaintiff, a seemingly ordinary day on a busy Utah highway turned into chaos, a chain reaction collision with multiple cars. And in the middle of it, they claim, was Ysabel. The allegations are serious: speeding, following too closely, failing to stop in time. The kind of claims that can not only cost thousands of dollars, but can also stick to someone's reputation long after the case is over. And for Ysabel, the stakes aren't just financial, they're deeply personal. This is about clearing her name in front of a court, the media, and the millions who know her story. That I'm Sarah, and this is TLC Sister Wives Recap. Thank you for joining me today as we look at this shocking twist in Ysabel's life. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share your thoughts in the comments. I want to know exactly how you see this case. The plaintiff's version of events paints a tense and chaotic picture. According to the legal filings, Ysabel Brown was allegedly driving too fast for the conditions that day, following the car in front of her too closely, and ultimately failing to stop in time. The complaint claims that this moment of inattention triggered a chain reaction, one vehicle colliding into another, the impact spreading like falling dominoes. In the plaintiff's telling, the results went far beyond a crumpled bumper or a frustrating afternoon stuck on the roadside. They allege real, lasting harm, physical injuries that still cause pain, a diminished ability to enjoy daily activities, and the looming possibility of permanent damage. The paperwork lists not just medical expenses, but also emotional suffering and a disruption to the plaintiff's quality of life, losses that can't easily be measured in dollars. Chain reaction crashes like this are notoriously tricky in court. Every driver involved may share a piece of the blame, and proving exactly who caused what can turn into a legal tangle. The plaintiff insists that Ysabel's actions set the whole sequence in motion, making her responsible for the injuries and financial costs that followed. One detail has caught the attention of many: the timing. The lawsuit was filed years after the actual accident. While that can be perfectly legal, especially in cases where injuries take time to fully reveal themselves, it raises questions for some observers. Why now? What changed? Was there a new medical diagnosis, or was it simply the right moment for the plaintiff to take action? For Ysabel, being on the receiving end of these allegations means more than defending herself in a courtroom. It's about facing a story that, true or not, can reshape how strangers see her, and how she sees herself. Ysabel Brown is pushing back against the lawsuit by carefully controlling her admissions, denying unproven claims, and emphasizing that while she rear-ended one vehicle, she should not be held liable for the entire multi-car chain reaction. She's demanding a jury trial and arguing that responsibility should be shared among all drivers involved, not placed solely on her. Act 4 centers on explaining Utah's no-fault car insurance rules in a clear, narrative-driven way. Under this system, each driver's own insurance pays for certain medical and related expenses after an accident, regardless of who caused it. To step outside this system and file a lawsuit for additional damages, the injured party must cross two major legal hurdles. First, they must show at least $3,000 in medical expenses. Second, they must prove a serious, permanent injury such as lasting disability, disfigurement, or impairment. In this case, the plaintiff appears to be looking for a way to bypass these restrictions to directly sue Ysabel, potentially for larger damages. But because Utah's threshold is intentionally set high to prevent most minor claims from clogging the courts, meeting these requirements is not easy. The Act frames this as a significant challenge for the plaintiff's legal team, hinting that the outcome may hinge on whether their injuries truly meet the state's strict definition of serious. When you start looking closely at the plaintiff's complaint, one thing jumps out almost immediately: it's missing the kind of detail you'd expect in a strong, slam-dunk case. There's no official crash report attached, which is unusual in a multi-car accident claim. Police reports often serve as a neutral account of what happened, listing where each vehicle was, who hit whom, and whether any citations were issued. Without that document, we're left relying solely on the plaintiff's description, and that description is far from crystal clear. Then there's the injury claim. In personal injury lawsuits, it's common to see specific diagnoses: whiplash, herniated discs, concussions, spelled out right there in the filing. You'd also expect to see details like when the injuries were diagnosed, what treatments were required, and what the long-term impact might be. Here, the language is more vague. We know the plaintiff says they were injured, but we don't know exactly how. That makes it harder to tie those injuries directly to Ysabel's actions, especially in a chain reaction crash involving multiple vehicles, and that raises an important point: why bring this case now, years after the accident? There could be many explanations, but the timing does open the door to speculation. In a world where reality TV fame often turns into headline fodder, could Ysabel's connection to sister wives be part of the calculus? We can't say for sure, but the possibility hangs in the background. Courts generally expect plaintiffs to come prepared, especially when significant time has passed. Evidence fades, memories blur, and witnesses move on. That's why the burden of proof becomes even more important. If you're asking for damages, especially beyond what insurance would normally cover, you need rock-solid evidence to show not only that you were injured, but that the defendant caused those injuries. Right now, the plaintiff's filing feels more like an opening move than a fully loaded legal strike. It states a claim, but it leaves a lot of blanks to be filled in. And every blank is an opportunity for Ysabel's legal team to raise doubts, poke holes, and shift the focus toward other possible causes and drivers that are in the courtroom. Vagueness can be risky for either side, but in this case, it might actually work in Ysabel's favor. Without specific facts to anchor the blame squarely on her, the plaintiff may struggle to clear Utah's legal threshold and convince a jury that she should be the one held responsible for the entire chain of events. When the news of this lawsuit broke, the reactions were as divided as the Sister Wives fanbase itself. Social media lit up with conversations, some defending Ysabel, others insisting that fame shouldn't be a shield from accountability. In fan forums and comment sections, the split was clear. On one side, people argued that after years in the public eye, it's only fair she faces the same legal process as anyone else. On the other, supporters pointed to the timing, the vagueness of the allegations, and the lack of concrete details as reasons to doubt the claim's strength. But the thing about cases like this is they don't just live in courtrooms, they spill into living rooms, news feeds, and late-night group chats. Every headline and every comment becomes another reminder that your private life isn't really private anymore. And for someone like Ysabel, who grew up in front of TV cameras, the lines between public persona and personal reality have always been blurred. Now, those lines feel even thinner. That it's hard to overstate the weight of legal trouble when you're already carrying the legacy of a famous family. It's not just about lawyers and documents, it's about waking up every morning wondering if today's the day another piece of the story hits the press. It's the quiet moments, too, checking your phone with a knot in your stomach, overhearing whispers in a grocery store aisle, feeling like even casual glances are laced with judgment. That kind of pressure can take its toll. Legal battles are rarely fast, and the uncertainty hangs heavy. Plans get delayed. Friendships get strained. Every conversation with family turns back to the case. It's not just about winning or losing, it's about enduring months, maybe years, of being defined by a single event you can't escape. For fans, it's easy to talk in terms of drama, guilt, or innocence. But for the person in the middle of it, the reality is quieter and lonelier. The lawsuit isn't just a legal fight, it's an emotional marathon. And whether or not the plaintiff's claims hold up in court, Ysabel will have to carry the weight of being both a defendant and a public figure until the very end. The lawsuit against Ysabel Brown has now moved past the initial filing, but what happens next will determine just how far this case goes. In Utah, a defendant is served, the legal process shifts into a phase known as discovery, a period where both sides exchange evidence, documents, and witness statements. This is where the bare-bones claims in the plaintiff's filing will have to be backed up with hard proof, medical records, crash reports, and detailed testimony. Without that, the case may not survive for long, but there's also another possibility that hovers in the background: settlement talks. In many civil cases, especially ones involving public figures, both sides might quietly negotiate a resolution before trial. This doesn't always mean guilt or innocence. It can simply mean both parties want to avoid the costs, time, and stress of drawn-out litigation. Still, any settlement here would likely be scrutinized by fans, critics, and the media, each eager to read between the lines that if the case does make it to trial, the stakes rise dramatically. Courtrooms don't operate on whispers or vague accusations, they demand facts, consistency, and credibility. And for Ysabel, every moment would play out not just before a judge or jury, but under the sharp glare of public attention. Cameras might not be in the courtroom, but the coverage, the commentary, and the opinions online will be relentless. That's where the human element really cuts through the legal jargon. This isn't just Brown versus Brown, or another name on a docket, it's a 22-year-old woman, already growing up in the shadow of reality TV, now being forced to defend her name and her actions against an accusation that's followed her for years. Whether the claim stands or falls, it's a personal fight for her reputation, her peace of mind, and her future, and so, as we look ahead, one truth remains: the outcome is far from certain. The legal threshold in Utah is high, the plaintiff's case has unanswered questions, and the court's patience for ambiguity is limited. But court battles have a way of surprising everyone. Sometimes evidence appears late, sometimes credibility shifts in a single testimony, sometimes public opinion turns on a dime. For now, the story is still being written. The next chapter could bring clarity, or it could bring even more twists. And you can bet we'll be watching every move, every filing, every development as it unfolds. So what do you think? Is this a lawsuit with real weight behind it, or a shaky claim that might crumble under the spotlight? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and make sure to stay tuned, because when the gavel finally falls, the ripple effects for Ysabel and her family could be enormous.